Okay, it's 6 o'clock. Call this meeting to order. And verify that we have a full quorum this evening. And the first item on our agenda is to approve the agenda. And there are a couple adjustments that need to be made. The first one is after public comment, I'd like to make a spot in there for any constituent reports that we may have tonight. I know classes just got started, so not a lot has happened. So we'll just put that in there just before the president's report. And then under information items, I'd like to switch retention and strategic plan at the request of the staff. Okay? And with that, we'll move to the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Now, this was on the agenda at an earlier meeting, but our person of the moment wasn't able to attend. So we're going to have a tenure recognition and photo for Tricia Robinson this evening.
We need to approve the agenda change.
Oh, I'm sorry. With those agenda changes, can we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay.
You turned it off.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Sorry about that, folks. Now for the tenure recognition.
I will introduce Tricia Robinson. She is an accomplished healthcare professional and nursing educator with over 17 years of experience in critical care and strong track record in higher education. Currently serving as an assistant professor in the Associate Degree of Nursing program at North Idaho College. She combines extensive clinical expertise with innovative teaching methods to prepare future nurses for high acuity patient care. Tricia is recognized for her exceptional communication, approachable leadership, and the ability to foster a supportive yet challenging learning environment. Students and faculty evaluations highlight her enthusiasm, professionalism, and effectiveness in engaging diverse learners through active learning strategies such as case studies, NCLEX-style questioning, and simulation-based education. Committed to ongoing professional growth, Tricia is pursuing a certified nurse educator certification and continues to expand clinical opportunities for students in partnerships with healthcare providers. Her blend of bedside expertise, administrative leadership, and academic innovation position her as a valued asset to nursing education and program advancement. And she got this recognition and was not able to attend because she was traveling with family on a long planned vacation. So we have her tonight. So if you'd like to come up and we can get a picture with her and the board.
Okay, I don't have a lot to say this evening other than to welcome everybody back for what I'm sure is going to be a very productive and successful school year. And I would just like to also note that there were a lot of graduation ceremonies this spring, and there was a board presence at every one of them. I'm very proud of that, okay? In fact, Trustee Havercroft went to the oath ceremony for the dental hygiene school today.
Yep.
So the board is very engaged. And with that, I will turn it over to President Swain.
Yeah, so next up is Celebrating Success, and we've got Marita Diffenbaugh here. And so Marita is going to talk to us about her new role as the Director of Innovation and running the X-Lab, NIC X-Lab. So Marita, it's all yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair Corgill. Thank you, trustees, President Swain, fellow employees, students, and community members. It's just a great honor to be able to share with you this evening. I love that we're already celebrating fall 2025. Here we are, and we're already celebrating learning and action that's been going on at the very start. And so I'm excited to share with you, and you can see on the screen, I have a bit of a storyboard here that I'm going to walk us through for a few minutes. That is really talking about how North Idaho College X-Labs has come to be. It's a mission-activated teaching and learning strategy that was co-designed through relationships, collaboration, and need. And some of you know that over in Headland, there's been a space waiting to become an innovation center. And now we get to make that happen. And so in this innovation center, there's construction in the works. The artist renderings that you can see, one of them on the bottom of our storyboard there, they are hanging on the wall of Headland. And we will be ready to fill that space with applied learning that will make an impact for now and in the future as soon as we get to open those doors. But we don't need to even wait for those doors to open to begin the work of North Idaho College X-Labs. This is a launch pad for innovation. This is a place where students, educators, community experts, and industry partners come together to solve real-world problems that will shape the future of our region and the world beyond our region. When we talk about applied learning, that's students engaging in hands-on project-based learning with industry and industry bringing challenges. Students gain skills, they gain confidence and experience that directly translate to the workforce and to their life when they get an opportunity to do that hands-on work. When we talk about applied learning, we also talk about instructors collaborating across disciplines to facilitate learning that has those real-world problems and is partnered with our community experts and our industry partners. The employers in our community benefits from our work because we are the hub of education in North Idaho, and we have a lot to offer as a community college by being a place where people want to bring their problems for us to learn through, sort out, and give potential solutions. When we think about the X in X-Labs, that represents the intersection of people and ideas. It's where our community, industry, and education converge to co-create solutions and drive progress. We have an open invitation for partnership with our community to bring to us ideas, needs, and things that we would like to work on. Right on the storyboard, you can see that we have 3 images that already show the work in action that started last week and have been in the works since early spring of last year. In the far corner, you see the word relationship and a group of people. That's our all employees meeting, and Holly Edwards and I had an opportunity to co-present during that time to welcome our employees back to school for the fall of 2025. And we shared some of our time, our speaking time with our colleagues, asking them to talk with a partner about maybe someone who has influenced their learning growth and how they show their curiosity through their coworkers and through their students, because we know that collaboration and curiosity together are some of those key ingredients to learning. And if you look down below where it says Design Studios, I was very excited to see that we put an opportunity out for our faculty to join a design studio workshop. A group of us had an opportunity to go learn really the elements of design through some of the work at Stanford, and we came back and brought that right into the hands of our instructors 42 of them joined us on their own on that very precious week of trying to prepare for classes to join us for that design studio time, which started off with a lot of think tank and things that would look familiar in a classroom space and ended in an applied learning space in our Gizmo partnership prototyping lab, where every single person had an opportunity to build something with their hands and present it. The pride that was there, the excitement for learning that was there, I really feel like we have a momentum going for this work. And then I also want to talk about FYE, and we're going to have a little presentation later more about what that is. But that first year experience opportunity, every student this year will get a chance to learn what design thinking is during the spring semester, and that will enrich us. We also have an opportunity for teachers to choose to do an integrated 250 class, which is dedicating an entire semester to work on a big problem in our community. And that's where you might see a math teacher working with a computer science teacher, working with a communication teacher and an industry partner to solve a really big problem and to come up with some prototyping around that with our community support. And then we have on that far corner to our right where it says Robotics Learning Lab, the partnership we have with University of Idaho in the robotics area, the Center for Industrial
Intelligent
Thank you.
Industrial Remote.
CIIR, that group already had started to do some magical things, collaborating with us on a continuum of learning where students can go in and work on their certificates, degrees, and what we've added to that is an opportunity for high school students to join a first robotics team that's going to be housed right in that robotics lab as well. So we are also putting a classroom space right there in the lab. So can you imagine maybe getting an opportunity to learn math in that visceral learning experience where math might be a barrier to you, but you love robotics and AI and automation? You might just fight through the math to get what you need out of that. So really a lot of a momentum going. We have 2 of our fall X-Labs projects being launched out of there. One of them, we just secured today our partnership with the Coeur d'Alene Public Library to be one of our partners for our next labs project that we have going on right now. So there will be more to share about this mission-driven work. Ultimately, I just want to leave you with this incredible gift that we have in front of us, this shared design mindset for innovation, this opportunity for further workforce development, adding on to the great work we're already doing, applied learning and community impact. These are all the key ingredients of the work at North Idaho College X-Labs, and it's definitely something that has already been welcomed, and thank you for the time to share. I will stand for any questions.
Thank you. That was a very, very nice presentation. Any questions?
You'll learn more about what it is, but I think one of the things I challenge the students to think about what they want to work on. When as incoming freshmen, we ask students to pick a major, and they don't even know what that is, and so they pick a major kind of randomly, and then when they hit a problem that they don't know how to get through, like a math or a science problem, or for some people it's writing, and they don't really know what they want to work on. So for many of them, they just pick another major and go do something else. And so what X-Lab, one of the things is really contributing, I think, to our retention strategy is to help students figure out what they want to work on. And if they know what they want to work on, then getting there becomes easier. They'll work through whatever the perceived obstacle is because they're passionate about figuring out how to contribute to that problem. So it's not how education is typically done, but I think it's really critical to getting them to succeed. So Marita's exactly the right person we needed for that job, and so we're looking forward to how she's going to launch it.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, no one signed up for public comment tonight. So I'll just ask if there are any constituent reports. Guess not.
You all showed up, so we figured we'd give you an opportunity to talk, but we do
Okay.
appreciate it. Yeah.
Mr. Herb.
Yeah,
Mr. Swain.
so it's been a while since I've given a report, so I'm sorry, but it's going to be a little bit long. We're currently, first topic, accreditation. We are in the process of finalizing a report to NWCCU. We'll have a final draft this week, get it out to trustees so they can read it. It's right at 70 pages. So the first half is really on the traditional mid-cycle review questions. The second half addresses the remaining outstanding recommendations from the troubled years. So we're working on getting that finalized. We'll get out to trustees for them to look at. And just a reminder that the next thing that'll happen once they get the report is they'll come visit us on the 16th and 17th of October. So then we'll start the whole cycle. They'll give us a draft report. We'll give them feedback. They'll give us a final report. And then in January of 26, we'll go out and visit them so that they can give us a clean bill of health. I'm not predicting anything, Steve. We're not supposed to predict, but I think that's definitely our goal. And so I'm following now our my new president's goals, which I think the board will approve tonight. So the first one follows our goal 1 from our strategic plans, student success and access. And so simplifying the admissions process is one of them. And it's turning into be a careful balancing act, something that we didn't see as we started this process of simplifying the application process. Was not expecting AI bots to submit applications as students. Turns out that's a real thing. We caught 21 applications where not only do they have an application, they've got fake IDs that support the application, and when you call them, sometimes the bot will respond in real time, in real language. It's incredible. And so a whole combination of folks working on this to how do we streamline it and not get fake students? And you may ask, why would we have people signing up to be fake students? Because they want to get their financial aid. They get financial aid and then they disappear. And so if that happens, we have to pay back whatever they got in financial aid. And so the college. So how do we streamline the process and filter out the fake students? That's becoming a real challenge, but we're working on that piece of it. Made several improvements in registration, financial aid processing, supporting students with federal financial aid, Idaho launch, and NIC Foundation scholarships, working through all that. And Tammy Haft, our Dean of Enrollment Services, will be here periodically to provide updates on how that's progressing, but we're making some real progress there. We've done a lot of work on retention strategies, and you'll see some of our enrollment numbers. For the first time in a long time, our continuing students is up over the prior year, and that has a lot to do, and Holly's going to give you an update on that. But fall retention our goal is to get up by 5% over the next 2 years. I think we're about 2% this year, so we'll continue to improve that. Expanded offerings, and she'll talk about this, expanded offerings and opportunities for students to participate in the first year experience, which is really teaching them how to be good, effective college students. And Holly will talk about that. We've asked faculty to use the gradebook in Canvas to post to create an assessment and then post that assessment in the gradebook so that if a student isn't passing the class, we can take direct action and move them into a class or provide them the support they need in order to pass that class. And if you think about it, some classes, there is no test throughout, they just get a final. Well, if that's the only assessment you get and your final grade's an F, you just wasted a whole semester. So we're trying to take action to prevent that kind of thing from happening. We've implemented a CARES Act program Dean of Students has a new reporting system that they've been working on so that faculty can identify and report students that are struggling. So the faculty doesn't have to take that on necessarily, but if they let us know that there's a student struggling, we can take action to provide them the services they need, whatever that may be, and alert them. So, and again, tonight you're going to hear a report from Holly Edwards, who's going to get into this stuff in more greater detail. Another thing about student access, the residence hall, traditionally we have about 197 beds available. We're full. Not only are we full, but they allowed 8 extra students in. I'm not sure where they're staying, but we have 8 extra students, because sometimes after the first month or so, the students will leave, and then we'd have an empty room. So they are able to accommodate all of the 205 students, but typically be limited to around 200. So we'll be a little over capacity, but they'll fill it. They'll figure it out, and it's apparent that with the cost of housing around here, we could probably fill another 80 beds. So we're in good shape that the dorm is filled, but bad shape that we can't provide housing to all the students that would really like to be here. We're also in the middle of what's called our Week of Welcome, where we're welcoming all students into NIC. There are a series of events. Kind of the culmination this week is a cruise, and I think the cruise ship is going to pull up on our dock and pick students up. It's kind of popular actually to get picked up and go on a lake cruise. So that's provided by the resort. In terms of our goal 3, actually goal 2, academic programs and pathways, is goal 2 from our strategic plan. You're going to hear a report tonight from Dr. Duman about the ongoing efforts we're making to align student pathways so that they fit the way students approach education. In the past, we've aligned our programming with our funding. So we get a lot of, our career and technical education is funded by Perkins. Our workforce training center is self-funded. And then our regular transfer programs are often funded by student aid, or students pay their own tuition. And so we have these 3 different categories of programs, but students just see it as education. And so they show up and they want to start out in workforce training, they take some classes, and then maybe they take classes in welding, so they've taken a couple weekend classes, and now they want to get their associate's degree in welding. And traditionally, this is not just an NIC problem, across the country, students would just have to start over. And we don't want them to do that. We want them to start where they are and be able to work forward with micro-credentials. So it's a big undertaking that the provost is working on. And the first thing we're going to do is working on that system of aligning workforce training to CTE and figuring out where we can have, what are the easy ones to do, figure those out, and then start to expand those programs. So another area is CTE to our transfer programs. And typically, if somebody starts out in the mechatronics program, which is an introduction to robotics, if they want to transfer over to main campus and do the robotic engineering program with U of I, they'd have to start over because the CTE program doesn't have all the math and the general education requirements that would enable them to start that program. So how do we get them into that program without making them start over? So we're figuring out those pathways. If it was easy, it would have been done a long time ago. It's challenging, but Dr. Duman is working real hard with the faculty and staff to figure out ways to make that work. The second big initiative, and I talked about this earlier this year, the Cardinal Classical Academy. So there's a program of many charter schools and private schools in the area are doing a classical, what they call a classical education. And so we figured out that we have all those classes already. We have an intro to literature course. We just got to focus on the classics. So the Aristotle and Plato and Shakespeare, those kinds of classical literature. If we do that, we can create our own classical academy here. So the students, when they're finishing up homeschool or one of the charter schools, they can transition right here and finish their associate's degree and ultimately move into a program at U of I where they can continue on with the classical academy. 15 to 20% of the students in the region they and their parents are seeking that classical academy. So this is just responding to the needs of the community to provide that kind of an education. Faculty are stepping up. Dr. Simpkins has been working with the transfer faculty to make sure all that's aligned. We probably won't teach Latin, which is one of the fundamentals, but Latin is not a spoken language. It's great to learn root words and learn the Romance languages, but we can do that with something like German, which is a complex Latin-based language that has those root words, but the benefit is it's a spoken language, it's a living language, so you can actually benefit from learning it. Nobody, except if you're going to the Catholic Church, in the traditional Catholic Church maybe, does Latin. So by focusing on German, we accomplish the same role with a more productive outcome. So look forward to that. We'll probably start with a couple of pilot courses in the spring, and then be ready to launch a bigger academy in the fall. And again, those classes will focus on Western civilization, Western history kind of stuff, classical literature. They'll be very rigorous classes, and they'll be open to anybody, but focused on the students that really want to follow that classical education model. Next thing up, advancing instructional support and programs in tutoring. We've expanded. Last year, we added a new tutoring center in the science and natural science area. So we have tutors now in math, natural science, and writing, which are the typical problem areas. So we have all those covered, and we're really seeing a lot of success for the students. They're seeking those out. The first day of class on Monday, I went into the math center, and I think there are people that think it's their home because they were there last year. But there's about 5 or 10 guys that are there, and I think they speak calculus now. I didn't know that was a language, but they're having that home for them is really great, and I think the same thing is happening in the Writing Center and Natural Sciences. Dual credit growth is one of the areas of our strategic enrollment, but we're doing it with a bit of a twist. We don't want to just increase dual credit or dual enrollment. Our goal really is to get the students to take dual credit and then matriculate here and finish their degree. So we're working really diligently on that. We've got a lot of incredible support now from all of the 4 major high schools in Kootenai County, and then beyond. The charter schools and private schools are really seeing the benefit of having a unified effort in dual credit, because the students get much closer to completing their associate's degree, so that when they graduate from high school, if they didn't complete their associate's degree, it's just 1 or 2 more semesters here as a full-time student, and they do. We actually have a large number of students, particularly from homeschool, that are enrolled full-time as dual credit students, which is kind of an interesting twist on things. Again, this is just supporting the needs of the community. Provides a real benefit to the students when they can focus on that, and we're really working on growing our 2+2 programs with our partner institutions, so the students can they get let me get the run $4,625 to support their efforts while they're in high school dual credit. Then they can get launch money plus foundation funding to support their efforts here. And then if they can stay here with a +2 and go to either U of I or LC, which are the 2 4-year institutions that are here in person, then they can really get a very economical 4-year degree. The next thing under this category is, and probably most of the folks in the audience and the board don't realize this, but there's a federal requirement to have accessibility for all of our online courses and all of our presentations. Some of you saw that last year in graduation, where we had the video with the subtitles being read, if you recall, which felt a little weird at first because we didn't know it was coming. But it's that kind of accessibility, so that if you can't see the image, how do you know what's on the screen? And so figuring out how to do that, IT and our folks have found a product called Yuja, is that right? Is that, UJA Panorama, and it's a really cool tool that the faculty can put their their PowerPoint presentations in, and it will largely upgrade it automatically to meet the accessibility standards. We caution them not to just hit the auto button because sometimes it will come up with weird results. So if you hit the auto button, make sure you review it because you never know what's going to show up on the screen. But it is a really cool tool. And then during our convocation, so we had a workshop on the panorama during convocation week for faculties. We, as Marita talked about, the NIC X Labs had a workshop. We added a new one, which is recruiting for your program. Faculty are the best recruiters for their program, and they used to, I'm told, be out in the high schools, working with faculty, working with advisors in the high schools to bring people into NIC. We got these great programs, come on down. And that kind of died during COVID, and so we're working to really reinvigorate that. And so we did that during the convocation. And then the final one is we had, there's a Senate Bill 1198, which is, it's designed to eradicate DEI and other initiatives on campus. We never really had an issue with that at NIC. We didn't have to ask for an exemption to that. None of our programs met the criteria to get an exemption, so we were fine. But just to make sure that faculty don't have any issues with compliance as they're instructing, we brought in our attorney, and they gave a nice workshop with faculty on how to be in compliance and work through the issues around 1198. So I think it was a very, very good convocation. The next one, community partnerships and engagement, which is goal 3 for our strategic plan. Members of the administration are out in the community. If you haven't, somebody's at darn near every activity, fundraiser, you name it. We're out there. And one of the workshops we offered during the fall convocation was designed to help faculty understand how they can also engage with the community. So I think it's really important that we're out there. We are a community college. We should be out there in the community. So we're working to re-energize that. We also revised the American Indian Studies program, and this is something we worked. Dr. Simpkins worked with the tribe, and in the past it has been more of a history and social science kind of focus, and we had a hard time recruiting students into that program. And I sat through a chamber event and saw a wonderful presentation by a lady from the tribe talking about sustainability and environmental programming that the tribe was doing. And apparently that's a big deal across the country with the tribal communities. And so I talked to her, talked to members of the tribe. I said, would it make more sense if we converted from this social science kind of program to environmental science? And they said yes. Well, it apparently resonated with faculty because as we put the position out there, and I think there were 65 people that applied for the job, and 51 were highly qualified, and we have an amazing young lady that is now teaching that program, and she has been challenged to go out to the tribe and reestablish those relationships and build that program up. And so I look forward to hearing good things from her. They'll still cover the history and culture of the tribe, so they understand the context as they're working through that sustainability and environmental science program in context with the tribe, but it will be focused on something that the students see as a career pathway. So I think we're going to see some real growth there. The other thing we're working on is expanding work-based learning. What is that? Well, the primary example is apprenticeships. And NIC is already recognized as being an ambassador for apprenticeship programs. So we're a national leader for apprenticeship programs. And the Workforce Training Center is leading the way in that. We had a first ever apprenticeship graduation program in, I don't know, May, I want to say, maybe June. It's been a minute, but there were about 120 people that were eligible, And these are primarily was HVAC, electrician, and plumbers that were graduating from this apprenticeship program. Well, what does that mean? Well, being an apprentice is a 4-year program. So our part of that is teaching the academic piece, passing the journeyman test. But then the students have to do 8,000 hours of work on the job and have that documented and credited so that they meet the qualifications for requirements. So these guys are putting in a lot, but they get paid for that work while they're working. But to be able to go out there and do it on your own and move up the salary scale, you got to pass that journeyman test. And that's where most apprenticeship programs fail, because all they focus on is the work. And so we provide that all of the educational materials necessary and the instructions to help them pass the test. So typically we front load that, so the students come in, take the class, they do it evenings and weekends so they can keep working. They take the test, they pass the test, and then they do their 4 years of service. So we just started that 4 years ago. So these guys graduated, and you can't say kids because they were probably average age is 55. And I asked when I got up there to talk to them at graduation, and about 80 of them showed up. And I said, the lady, there's a group behind me. It was the mom, the spouse, the child, and the stepchild of one of the graduates. And so that gives you some idea of the demographics that were there. And when I got up, I said, how many of you, is this your first graduation? And literally half of the 80 people that were there said this is the first time they've ever been able to attend a graduation. They left high school, something happened in life, but so we gave them the opportunity, and I really credit the Workforce Training Center folks for giving them the opportunity to graduate. They could not have been more proud. And so that's the kind of program that we're going to grow with our work-based learning opportunities. Really cool. There are two other major goals I'm not going to address tonight because I think I've gone long enough. But institutional systems and integration is our goal 4, and operational excellence and infrastructure goal 5 I'll address next time. Now for general updates. Just when you thought it was over, on page 3 now. A lot happened over the summer, okay? So one of our students, Jeff Shark, has been selected as the inaugural 2025 Chime Workforce Scholar, and he's going to receive $1,000. So that's out of the PTK program. So it's a really prestigious national scholarship, and one of our students won the Chime Scholarship. And I think they give out $20,000 a year now, and one of our students won one of those scholarships. Enrollment is up again. We're probably going to end up between 1% and 2% up, significantly higher in credit production, so more students are taking full-time courses, which is important because that's how we build our budget. But keep in mind that last year we were up 15.3%, so we're up 1% more than that right now, and we still have our late start and dual credit that is coming. So we're going to be doing really well again. And for the trustees saw this firsthand, because for the first time in a long time, you have to park and walk to the building because it's a good long, there's so many cars filling the parking lots. Even the parking lot behind the library was pretty full today. So the foundation has already committed to a record $1.5 million in scholarships, which is up from about $1.3 million last year, which is also a record. So another $200,000 to $300,000 more in scholarships to students. Since May, we've hired 61 new employees. Is that right, Megan? 61? And that includes about 19 faculty. Many of those positions had more than 20 applicants, which is a big turnaround from where it was last year. And as I mentioned, one of them had 65 applicants, our American Indian Studies program. So things are really turning around from our ability to recruit faculty and staff. Really, really good move there. Some of you may have noticed that Cardinal Central moved. As you were coming in, did you see the DeArmond building has been kind of rebranded? There's a big the sign has changed. You may have noticed that. It's for many of, I'm making a joke because it's like blindingly obvious. If you drive past a DeArmond building, it's clearly Cardinal Central. Now, Cardinal Central is where you go for enrollment services. It's your one stop for all of the things you need to get enrolled in college. So you can get access to advising, financial aid, all the things you need. You can start there. And the great thing about it is the parking behind DeArmond. There's a huge parking lot that was rarely full, and now it's so easy for students to pop in there off the traffic circle and park. And whereas where it used to be in the Lee Kildow building, it was always difficult to find Lee Kildow, to find Cardinal Central, and then to find parking. So great move there. 26 major projects. Dan Adams has been in charge of that over the summer. Many of them are nearing completion. I didn't really put this together until I said it. If you look in front of Lee Kildow, it's not the most beautiful site. I jokingly said it looks like the Adams family house, and then I remembered that Dan Adams is the guy running it, so it's like I didn't make that intentional, and I'm sure his house looks great, but it wasn't his house. It was the old Adams family from Saturday morning TV show back when we were kids. We are so really lots, like new roof on the library, new roof on the dorms, new HVACs, new windows in Lee Kildow, new HVAC in Lee Kildow. Just an amazing number of projects, and Dan shepherded that through, including where people were going to move while they were displaced out of Lee Kildow. So with support from IT, because when they moved, their phones worked, their computers worked. It was really quite a mess to orchestrate, and folks just did an amazing job. And so I'll just say thanks. They did a great. IT hired their two new directors. So under Ken, he had two directors. Well, he had two director positions that were empty chairs for the past year and a half or so. We were able to fill those very recently, so now we are able to move forward much faster on two of our projects, Course Dog and Element 451. I can't think of a worse name for a product than Course Dog, but and I'm sure there's a wonderful explanation for it, but what it does is allows us to assign our classroom resources and our enrollment and our courses all combined together so that we make the most efficient use of our space and time. And it makes it easier to track, so there's a nice dashboard so we can track when students are trying to get into class and move things around to accommodate students, as opposed to kind of just a traditional gut check feel of things. So Course Dog is going to give us that opportunity. It looks at faculty load, which has been, faculty are on contract to teach 5 classes in the fall and spring. And we never really figured that out. We never figured out how many they were actually teaching until after all was said and done, and all the courses were filled, and find out that there were 2 or 3 courses that weren't filled, and so the faculty member is only teaching 3. We can track that all now in near real time with Course Dog. Again, I don't know why they call it that. Element 451, another one, is a great branding name. It's really a tool to communicate with students. So students get things that you don't think about. Canvas is our learning management system. So instructors build their courses in the learning management system. So all the assignments, all the reading materials, all loaded into Canvas. Every time they make a change, if they have it set this way, every time they make a change in Canvas, it sends an email out to students. Every time something, so you imagine you got 5 classes, and every time something changes, you're getting an email from Canvas, really not from your faculty member. The marketing folks send emails. The Dean of Students sends emails. Everybody's sending out emails to students, and so they're in email overload, and they end up not reading many of them. And so we're trying to consolidate that into a much more seamless and reduce the quantity but increase the quality of communication to students. And so element 451 is going to help with that. Both of these contribute to goals 1, 2, 4, and 5 of our strategic plan. Okay, almost done. Marketing Communications has launched a new student-focused newsletter that I think they may be sending out to trustees. We'll send you a couple of them early on so you see what that's about. Brian Walker, our new Director of Communications in the Marcom, is doing that. Pretty nice product. It'll go out probably twice a month. They started sending out a summary of NIC-related stories every Friday to trustees and to members of the community that asked for it. There's kind of there are a bunch of folks, including members of the state board, that have asked for, yeah, we have highlights up here. The members of the state board that have asked for, hey, what's going on at NIC? Well, there's all the things we're doing, things that we're publishing, Nick Now announcements that's going out, and then also we're sending out press releases that are covered in the press. So lots of good stuff there. And then over the past year, literally the past year, marketing has been working with the city and Avista to get permission to install NIC banners along Northwest Boulevard. And many of the college and university towns you go to, there's the banners that are out there on the streets. Well, now these are going up. We just got them in. We got approval. There's one out near River Avenue, but the rest of them, I think there's about 30 of them that'll be going up along Northwest Boulevard. So anybody, they'll be on both sides of the street on the Avista light poles. The size and shape were really dictated by Avista. They have very strict limits on the size and shape of the things. So yeah, it would be great to have bigger ones. Or have a banner that goes all the way across the street. That would be cool too. But Avista really limits what we can do. So they got it down to the maximum square inches that we could cover, and they will look pretty good when they get up there. Upcoming events, the 13th of September, the Coeur d'Alene Fire Department and the City of Coeur d'Alene are gifting NIC a retiring ladder truck for our fire department training program. So more details if you want to attend that. It's a pretty big deal. They could have sold it, and instead, because we have had such a long-standing relationship with them, and we're really the source of their next generation of firefighters, they thought the best use of that was to gift it to NIC. So it's going to be at the Workforce Training Center. Our diesel mechanics will get an opportunity to fix it when it breaks. So it's really all around a great thing. Booster Club Cruise is September 4th. Trustees, you're welcome to attend that if you'd like. Rathdrum Rumble Car Show is September 27th. So if you know anybody that owns a car dealership, you might want to showcase. Now, typically it's kind of classic cars, but it's also a great way to show off some of the newer stuff. So September 27th at the Parker Center, that's a really nice event. And then the ACCT Leadership Conference that I think most of the board is going to be able to attend is the October 20th and 25th. Also call to your attention the economic impact statement or economic impact report that was done. We reported on that, but it's out and available, and Marcom is making it available online. There's also been a lot of coverage, and you saw that on the slides, the geological engineering program, the culinary arts apprenticeship program, and then one thing that wasn't on there, and it's kind of a concern, is the governor announced a 3% budget holdback for this year. So we're going to work through that and figure out how we're going to adjust that. We're going to have our first big meeting on that tomorrow. Of course, they told us last week, and our first report is due on the Friday. So we're meeting on it tomorrow to figure out what we're going to do. I think we're going to be fine, but if we need to adjust the budget, I'll bring that back to the board so we can take action if needed. And with that, I have completed my report, subject to any questions.
Any questions?
Nobody
Yes.
wants to ask.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Little?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. That was outstanding. There was a lot of information, and it was all really, really great. Thank you. You're doing a lot of really good things for the school and our community. I have a question and then a comment. My first question is, you spoke about the bots and the 21 applications that effectively created students, and somehow that got stopped. How did it get stopped, and was there any funding for financial aid that came as a result of that?
Ken, I don't think that we were in any loss on financial aid. Is that correct? Yeah. So I think we caught it. I'll have Ken come in and do a presentation. I'm a little reluctant to do too much publicly about how we caught it because I don't want to educate the bots. But they had fake license plates that if you looked at it, if you were just, you look at the application, you look at the license, the driver's license, if you weren't paying attention, you would just say, good. They were really pretty good fakes. Fake passport to support all this stuff. I mean, fake phone calls. So really impressive. And it
someone
was
was
just
paying attention, so that's
if
really
folks
great.
are paying attention, we caught it this summer because students were taking an online course, and at one point the instructor said, all these answers look similar, and sent an email to the students and said, hey, are you guys collaborating on your responses or something to that effect? I'm not sure of all the details, but essentially they ghosted after that. And so they knew they were caught, and so they didn't respond. And that alerted us. I think there were 15 that we caught this summer, and then another 21 because now we're really paying attention. There are now some resources that are available that are AI generated that will go look at all this stuff to see if, again, I don't want to speak about what they check, but there are the things that we did manually. They can check automated in an automated way, but the bots are going to get better. So we have to try to stay one step ahead of them. The College of Southern Idaho shared some information they had, and they estimate they had a much larger number. But they caught it early as well, and they think they saved themselves about what was the number? $4 million in financial aid. So it's not a small problem. And of course they're international or out-of-state students, so they get the highest tuition rate. So that gets the highest level of tuition support. And then what they'd love to get financial aid from our foundation, which is that's real cash. So it's a big deal that we have to really be diligent to make sure we don't fall. We're going to need help from the federal government.
Well, I think it's great that you're on top of it and your heads are up. So
Well,
congratulations on everybody for doing that.
Ken and advising, even faculty, and I think the information that Ken provided really is instructional for faculty so they can look for those clues, and he set up kind of a reporting thing so that if you think that there's somebody that's a fake student, send it in, and then they can focus their efforts on trying to validate them.
And then I just have one quick comment. The Classical Academy that you're putting forth, I think that I personally am very happy to hear you say that that's going on, because I do believe that there's a part of our community that's a need, and so we're meeting the needs of our community. So I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah. Good.
Anyone else?
I just have one quick question.
Okay.
61 people were hired this summer. How does that compare to last year?
So our Chief Human Resource Officer gives us a very accurate statistic. It's better than last year.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I just thought, I thought we were doing a lot better
But,
in
yeah,
terms of how many openings we had.
We did not hire that many last year for a number of reasons. My guess is something along the neighborhood of 20 last year. So
Great. That's wonderful that we have so many qualified applicants. That's really nice. So pleased
from
to
all
hear
over,
that.
not just from our area. They're wide-ranging folks. So
Thanks, Megan.
I have a request.
sure.
Would you just briefly mention your national appointment?
Oh, yeah, I was going to leave that out, but, so I was recently appointed by the ACCT to serve on the President's Advisory Committee. There are 5 regions that ACCT has, and they asked me to represent our region, so I said I'd do it. With the board's approval, I said I'd do it, and so our first meeting is Friday.
So just for the record, we have President Swain on a national board, and we have Trustee Zimmerman on a national board also. So we're very proud of that. Okay, earlier today, the board met with the Association of Community College Trustees, and we went over a lot of data today, including the president's evaluation. And we met with Debbie D. Thomas in the back there and with Mr. Ken Burke right here. And Mr. Burke is going to debrief us on this.
Thank you, Chair Corkle. And on behalf of my colleague, Dr. D. Thomas, and I, we certainly appreciate the opportunity to be with you today. We had a facilitated discussions, what we're calling them. All trustees were present. Once again, it shows enormous commitment on this part of this Board of Trustees to take part in these important discussions. As was mentioned earlier, and you're going to hear even more later, about the President's evaluation. And Dr. D. Thomas and I look at this more from a governance angle, and looking at through that prism, you see that the President's evaluation today followed all the best practices. It was done by a outside agency. It was facilitated by ACCT. It was a very positive experience, and the board, it shows the board and president working as a team, aligned to advance the college and promote student success. So you can check that box off, perfectly done as far as all elements of conducting a president's evaluation. The evaluation itself, of course, is a confidential document, but the process is not, and the process that was observed was extremely well done. Also, another important best practice that was embraced today is that the board in community colleges has one employee, and that's the president. And the president went over his contract with the board. It should be done on an annual basis, again, following a great best practice. President Swain was very prepared with the copies of his contract for each board member and with a cover sheet going over his current compensation package. Again, showing best practices in governance. The next item was the presentation of the president's goals for the year 25-26. You keep hearing these words, best practice, but another best practice was observed by the president proposing his goals in a very thoughtful manner, and then the board in a very robust, engaged discussion talked about those goals with the president and came to conclusions. And you'll hear further on that tonight. The initial action on those president's goals are going to take place. The next item concerned the board's self-evaluation. The board took a mini self-evaluation document, which we have used with the board before. Dr. D. Thomas helped calculate those scores very quickly. But the board has decided to embrace a more thorough review of their evaluation, self-evaluation. And so they have engaged an outside firm to ACCT to conduct a very thorough board self-evaluation. And between now and November, when Dr. D. Thomas and I will be coming back, we're going to go through that self-evaluation and also going to work with the board during that time in developing board goals. They already have board goals. We're going to look at those board goals, review them, and come up with another action plan for this next coming year. All these things that I'm mentioning are best practices in community college governance. And there's a tremendous appetite among these board members to make sure that they are observing good governance practices and that they're embracing them and they're actually carrying them out in reality. And I think you've seen that through their attendance and engagement at graduation events, at board meetings, and other college activities. The last item is one of great importance, and it's one that we've been working on. Steve, we've been working on, seems like forever, but accreditation. Each recommendation of accreditation that relates to governance was discussed today at the facilitate discussions. There was an action plan which is already The good news, it's almost all complete. The board has done all it's supposed to do to practice good governance, and that evidence is so strong through so many different ways, through the votes of the organizations withdrawing their votes of no confidence, which I can't, again, I know I said it last time I made that presentation up here, but I can't compliment you all enough for that courageous activity, because Dr. D. Thomas and I talked about this, but we have never seen that nationally in the history of our involvement with community colleges, organizations withdrawing their votes of no confidence. That should send a clear signal to the accreditation authority that the actions that this board has taken are real and they're very meaningful. I can't express my accolades enough to the trustees for their commitment to this college, for their active involvement. You hear that Dr. Swain mentioned that they will be attending the ACCT Congress. They are involved in every aspect of this college, keeping their proper role of policymaking and working as a team with Dr. Swain to advance the college and achieve student success. So my hat's off to this college and this Board of Trustees. You're a magnificent group. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that. Next agenda item is finance for Q4.
Sarah Garcia will.
Okay.
So this kind of closes out the fourth quarter, which technically ended in June, and now we're able to give you that report.
Good evening, Chair Corkill, trustees, colleagues, and guests. I'm Sarah Garcia, Vice President for Finance and Business Affairs. Just to share with you our preliminary financial results for fiscal year 2025. I have to put that caveat in there. So in fiscal year 2025, NIC's revenue exceeded budget by over $2.5 million, which is about a 5% over budget. There's three drivers for this: tuition and fees, miscellaneous taxes, and interest income. The hard work done by so many people on campus to recruit and retain students last year resulted in a $500,000 increase in tuition and fees over the expected budgeted amount, which is about a 5% increase. The miscellaneous tax revenues were also another $500,000 increase that was unexpected, and the interest income accounted for about $1.4 million of the increase over budget. These end-of-year results are consistent with what we've been seeing throughout the whole fiscal year, and also with what we were seeing last year as far as miscellaneous taxes and interest income. They were both high again last year as well. And you may remember that we actually adjusted our budget for this current year, 26. So please don't get confused with all the 24s, 25, 26, and 27s I'm going to be saying tonight. So I'll try to say this year, last year. But FY 26, which is the current fiscal year that we just started, we adjusted our budgets up for interest income and for tax receipts, as well as tuition, and based on the results that we had for fiscal year 25. That we're talking about right now. On the expense side, our personnel expenses were lower than budget by $3.5 million this year. About half of that is attributable to benefits and half of it to salaries. The savings was also spread fairly equally between the faculty category and the staff category, so it wasn't heavy in one particular area versus the other. The savings came from vacant positions and the longer time that we needed to fill those vacant positions for the better part of the fiscal year. Again, as we formulated the FY 26 budget, we made adjustments in these expense areas to better align our budget with our expected expenditures for FY 26. So we eliminated and reduced the holding of some vacant positions. We readjusted our benefits budget. So we expect to be much more closely in alignment this upcoming fiscal year. Our general expenses exceeded the budget by $1.8 million. And while they're still preliminary, they really do accurately reflect kind of the day-to-day operations. The changes that we're making now relate to accruals for outstanding vacation balances and adjustments to the financial statements that are required for reporting purposes. But this really reflects what we do on a day-to-day basis. We made some conscious decisions during the course of this fiscal year to spend some of our salary savings to support our strategic plan and to support our ongoing operations. Our professional services line this year has reflected that choice. We chose to hire some consultants to help fill the void for some critical vacant positions, as well as support and training for new individuals in their roles. So we spent some money on a contract with a company that has expertise in our ERP software, who could help people who are new to their roles understand how the software works and to optimize the software for the best use for the college. Other areas where we strategically invested those savings were in recruitment and retention, where we spent money on advertising, software, and some other tools to improve the NIC experience for our students. For example, as you heard Dr. Swain talking about just a moment ago, we purchased 2 new software programs and have been working on implementing them to improve and enhance course scheduling, which was the course dog piece, as well as a CRM type system that's for students. I tried to call it a SRM, but I didn't want to go there. But it allows us to improve our services to our students and improve the retention in the process. So we should see the fruition of those choices of spending those excess funds for the future. It'll help set us up for the future. Overall, we are going to end up the fiscal year with net income. That's all I have on the presentation. So I just have a few extra remarks. We will end up with a small net income, and we won't be needing to use our fund balance to cover any of our operating expenses during the year. Like I said, we intentionally manage those extra revenues and the salary savings, and we'll be keeping a close eye on fiscal year 26 to do the same thing and make sure that we take the best advantage of the funds and that we have available to us. Before I stand for questions, I just do want to share with you what else is going on in the finance world right now. This is the time of year where I lose complete and total track of time. This month, my team is finalizing the FY26 accounting ledgers and preparing for the fiscal year 25 audit, some of which we've already done with regard to the federal parts of it, so financial aid and some of our federal grants, and the rest of which starts in earnest on September 8th. With school starting this week, we're into the busy start of the new fiscal year, and on top of it, it's state fiscal year 27 budget season. So the fiscal year 27 budget request cycle at the state's well underway. On August 1st, we submitted our capital project requests to the Permanent Building Fund Advisory Council. This week, we'll submit our FY27 general fund request to the state. And in October, the Permanent Building Fund Advisory Committee meets to discuss capital funding requests. We'll make a brief presentation at their meeting in October. So once we submit our budget this year, the state is doing maintenance budgets only. So that means there is just your base budget plus a 1% change in employee compensation and nothing else. So it's just maintenance budgets. They're not allowing anyone in the state to ask for any money in addition to the maintenance budget. So it sounds like it would be easier, but for some reason it's a lot more complicated this year. But once we submit that budget, between then and January, the Division of Financial Management, Legislative Services Office, and the Division of Public Works will be asking questions back and forth as we prepare and answer questions for the legislators as they get ready to discuss the budget in January at JFAC. That's all I have for now, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions?
Okay.
Thank you for another thorough report. It's always good to hear good news.
And I may or may not commit to not asking for more money from the state.
Okay, strategic plan, goal 2 metrics.
So Dr. Newman has been doing a lot of work on this in his if he's not tied up doing something else, you'll find him in the workroom in the library where he's got all this mapped out, and he's playing mad scientist, and he's perfecting the role.
I was going to say that you stole my thunder and I just asked for questions. Chair Corkill, trustees, our plan over the next few months is to maybe take a little deeper dive into how we're implementing different aspects of the strategic plan. If you take a look, I gave you a handout, goals 1 and 2.
With all the goals, yeah.
I'm oversee goal 3, President Swain oversees, and goals 4 and 5, Sarah oversees. So as we're talking about our goals, I'm going to take a look at some of the actions that we're taking in goal 2. I wanted to start off because Holly is going to be talking about FYE and some of the actions we're taking in under goal 1, under objective 1.2. So I'll mention that in a minute. As you probably already know, our 25 to 30 strategic plan began July 1st, so we're off and running. Many of the actions that President Swain gave in his report are part of the strategic plan. Things that we're doing, things we're starting, and so you're going to hear that again and again over the next few months. One thing I want to reiterate, I said this last time, although we're presenting the strategic goals separately, it's important to note that they're intertwined. They aren't individual goals, they're intertwined with each other. IT is involved in goal 2, which is goal 4. So as we talk about them separately, remember that they're intertwined. Now, on the board, I have a Prezi again, so I wanted to go really quickly over goal 1 because Holly is going to be talking about goal 1, students. The main goal is to enhance student access and support. Our objective 1.1 is to simplify the admissions process and reduce barriers. Holly is going to be talking about some effective retention strategies, and that's really talking about what we're doing with FYE to ensure that the students are engaged. And if you were here Monday night, you would have seen a lot of engagement. Objective 1.3 is develop and implement targeted strategies to attract various student populations, and we'll be talking more about that later. Goal 2 has to do with programs. Provide streamlined, flexible pathways to success that empower students to reach their educational goals. Objective 2.1, design and implement pathways. This particular objective is one that I'm very excited about and very interested in. This is the one that you just heard, Nick. If you see me, I'm usually in what we call the TLC working on this, and you'll see they say that I make flowers on the wall of how I want it to roll out. But what we're attempting to do is we're attempting to make pathways that are really student-facing and that show how pathways are included as career clusters. So if you think about a career cluster, you think about maybe the health professions programs, for example. Not only is nursing a part of the health professions, but we also have several related careers in the health professions that students can explore, such as physical therapy assistant, John, radiology, dental hygiene, what is the
Medical lab.
surgeon technology, and a new one that I think that we're going to be working with U of I, medical administration. Those are all a cluster in the health professions field that include nursing, but they include all of the others. The same would be true in business. There are several career clusters that don't just focus on business management. We have accounting, and we have some other clusters in there, and we're doing this, it's the same for STEM programs. I'll be bringing this back to you as we develop it more. Objective 2.2, enhance instructional support, including tutoring. What you heard from Marita is really enhancing instructional support with the X Labs. That's getting students more integrated into the school and helping them with their career goals. Another thing that we're doing here with the enhancing instructional support, we're working on developing a comprehensive orientation program that we hope to implement this spring. And it will be really a way of onboarding all of our new students, much like what we're doing with hopefully what we're doing now with our FYE students. Objective 2.3 in Goal 2 is to ensure clarity and transparency by communicating information about the pathways. And this is really where we're working with IT and with Tom's group marketing to get the website to communicate how our pathways are going to be working. So Objective 2.1 and 2.3 are really closely aligned. And then finally, Objective 2.4 and Goal 2 is to develop and strengthen the dual credit partnership. Nick already told you about what we're doing with one of our goals is to have our high school dual credit students come to campus after they graduate and complete their associate's degree. Our goal with that one is to, over the next 5 years, increase the percentage of students doing that by 5% a year over the next 5 years. Another thing that we're doing as a part of strengthening the dual credit partnerships is to work with the area high schools to actually develop dual credit pathways in the high school. And so they're more aligned with what we're doing here on campus. And the last thing that we're doing is to really think about how we want to be the primary provider of dual credit in our region. So we're reaching out to all the high schools in what we call Region 1. And that is Goal 2, if you have any questions.
Lloyd will be back with more details as we start to flesh out some of these programs.
You're 3.
It looks like a very good strategic plan, and I appreciate that.
Okay. Holly's up with talking about retention.
Good evening. Chair Wagner, Board.
Oh. Corkill, Chair Corkill.
I'm sorry, Chair
Whoa.
Corkill.
A flash from the past.
Got some false instructions on that. Yes, I'm so sorry. Let me start again. Good evening, Chair Corkill, Board, President Swain, colleagues and community. I'm Holly Edwards. And I'm so excited to be here tonight with my colleague, Jolene, to talk to you about retention work happening at NIC. I love this work, and I could really talk about it all night, but I promise I won't do that. The most important thing you need to know is that for decades, the research has consistently shown that the best way to promote retention is to provide opportunities for a sense of belonging and connection. That includes students' connections with faculty and staff, their connection with peers, and how their learning connects to their passion and their career. So everything we're doing with retention has the promotion of connection and belonging at its core. Our most comprehensive retention effort is our first-year experience programs, FYE. You've been hearing a lot about this. Implementation of an FYE program, especially one grounded in several best practices, as ours is a really heavy lift that requires the whole campus. It is something that NIC has wanted to do for a long time. And what we've achieved at NIC is something we can all be really proud of. Successful FYE programs are not just an orientation or a single class. Students, especially community college students, need support the entire first year. In fact, many schools are implementing second-year programs and finding additional retention gains. More on this in a moment. So you can see there, that second bullet, we have 2 classes that cover the full first year for students. Whether they start in the fall or the spring, they're able to follow that pathway. Cohorting is possibly the most effective retention practice, and it also happens to be one of the hardest to pull off, especially in non-CTE programs and at community colleges, yet we found a way to do it. Each FYE course at NIC is co-rect with a GEM course or a program-specific 3-credit course. Colleges that are leaders in FYE have a retention-based mindset infused into their campus culture. We have grown to have faculty from all GEM areas, either teaching FYE courses or engaged in the programming. We've recently added engineering and business to program-specific courses that are co-recs. And it's important to note that this is truly a full campus initiative. Several enrollment services offices and advising services are critical and engaged partners. And again, more on this in a minute. But I wanted to give our students and Joe a chance to chat with you a little bit about their experience. And so we do have a video here that I should be able to play.
It's definitely a place to help you connect better with not only your professors, but your peers as well.
FYE really calmed my nerves and helped me kind of understand what the college experience is about.
FYE is a series of first-year experience courses. There's 2 courses in which they guide you through what is offered at North Idaho College, including all the resources that you can acquire along the way, all the help you can get, all the tutoring you can get, and just the community that you can build.
My biggest takeaway from FYE was learning things that you don't normally learn in the college experience, like good study habits.
FYE took away a lot of the anxiety that I had when it came to college. It made it really easy to level with my fears along with the professor that taught it, and helped me realize that I could ask questions and that it wasn't as scary as I originally thought.
The classes are really about learning how to be a college student and building the kind of network that you need in order to get through school, and then later in life to have a network to fall back on. One of my favorite things about being a teacher in the first year experience program is getting to know my students, because I value relationships so much, and I know how much relationships will help them have a good educational experience. I really, really love seeing students come in at the beginning and they're just kind of shy and they're uncertain and they don't think they belong, and then at the end of the class, they're my social butterflies. They feel like they belong, they have confidence, and they're ready to go do the rest of their classes here at NIC.
Many students will come in to NIC not really knowing whom or what to expect, and if you're able to take FYE, you can really start to build a base of friendship, not only with your peers, but also with your professors. Really builds creativity with the students so they can really open up and explore something from a point of view they may not have thought about to begin with. Get those creative juices flowing to find non-traditional ways to solve these problems, which in turn just builds these critical thinking skills and these communication skills and these interpersonal skills. It's really a lifelong skill that you're able to take beyond the classroom. And when you're looking for jobs, when you're looking to try and figure out what you're going to do, these are really skills that are very employable that many companies are going to look for. Employers are constantly looking to see if you have durable skills, that you're able to critically think, that you're able to use your time wisely, that you're able to take initiative without having to have your hand held.
Students should take FYE because, frankly, the people that are teaching FYE are really awesome and they're really going to love being in our classes. They will really develop a network of people that are going to be the support that they need throughout the rest of their career here at NIC. I have a very good friend who works for a cereal company, and she works in accounting, and over the past couple of years she's had to fire 3 people. And when she talks about the experience of firing those people, it wasn't because they weren't good accountants or they couldn't add numbers or they couldn't do the job that they were hired to do. It was because they weren't organized, they weren't self-reliant, they didn't ask questions, they didn't plan their time, they didn't show initiative. And those are the kinds of durable skills that you were introduced to in FYE and that you start building.
You're able to build something that can go beyond 1 semester and that can go beyond, 2 years at NIC into lifelong relationships that can flourish throughout the community, even beyond the walls of North Idaho College.
Great. Joe, do you want to talk about your experience?
I put my notes on my phone like my students do. My name's Jolie, and I'm an assistant professor of English here at NIC, and I've been teaching in the first-year experience for 4 years. This is my 4th year now. I believe I came in the 2nd year that it was in place. And from a faculty perspective, this program really helps me build relationships with my students. I love all my students, but the FYE cohorts are special. I have extra time with them, so there's a lot of room for relationship building. It's Wednesday, and I think I've seen my students 4 hours already this week. I know all their names. I know a lot of information about them. I'll get to see them again tomorrow, which I really look forward to because they're a really fun group. But I think one of the things that I really take away from this experience is that FYE has reframed my teaching around this idea of relentless welcome that we talk about. And I think that that's helpful for students that are in FYE, but I've noticed that it also bleeds into my teaching of classes that aren't in the FYE program too. So that means that not just the first year experience students are benefiting from it, but also our other students as well who aren't enrolled in that program. It's also given me new ways to collaborate with my peers, which is something that we always want to do and we never have time or resources for. So FYE faculty meet once a month as a group, and we talk about strategies, we talk about what's going well, we talk about what we want to improve. But I also just hang out in the hallways with my colleagues, and we talk, and we strategize, and we share what we did. My colleague Kat, she'll tell me what she did in her class yesterday, and I'll change things on the fly, and I'll take her idea and run with it. So it's really great. And this program makes that possible, and it's a real privilege to teach in it.
Thanks, Joe. And so we have all these great anecdotal or stories, qualitative measures, but also we're showing significant gains in the data for our FYE students. So if you go the second column from the right, you can see retention measures are fall to fall. And that is the goal of FYE, is to improve our fall-to-fall retention. And so you can see that second column on the top is our FYE cohort, on the bottom is our eligible cohort. The top table is our 22 cohort, fall 22, and the bottom is the fall 23. And in each of those, we saw about 7% better retention rates with our FYE cohort than the FYE cohort, those that were eligible but did not participate. 7% is significant, and we're really proud of that. Don't quote me on these numbers because they're not finalized yet, but we are on track for continued gains for our upcoming, our fall cohort, as you can see. There's another story here to tell, and that's related to campus-wide culture shift that I was talking about that I told you I'd circle back to. And, oh, we've got the wrong slide here. President Swain corrected me. We're actually seeing about 8% gains in our eligible but non-participating cohort in the fall 22 to the 23 cohort. So what we would like to think is that some of the other retention efforts that we're engaging in across campus are raising the bar for the entire campus, not just our FYE students. And even though our non-participating population is doing well, our FYE students continue to perform at additional or at higher levels. So this is good for NIC in general. And so some of those continuing efforts, we will be scaling FYE. We don't quite have all of those eligible target population students participating, but we will be continuing to scale that program. And also, we have our retention committee. Just a couple of the initiatives that the retention committee is working on, scaling FYE. We made last year 6 proposals to President's Cabinet. Many of those were included in the strategic plan that Lloyd talked about. And going forward, we'll be making more proposals that will then get our retention committee supporting our strategic plan. New student orientation was one of the ones that came out of the retention committee that's now embedded in our strategic plan. That's one example. And then finally, as a way to keep connections central to what we do, we're using this book, Relationship Rich Education, in my opinion, one of the best books written on the topic of retention to create a relationship-rich culture at NIC. You'll have your very own copy of this book. There'll be an essay due at the next meeting. No, I'm kidding. I can only imagine how busy you all are. Even if you just read the first chapter, you would get a really good taste for what we're up to and how the focus is forming on campus. So I've got a copy for each of you. And I will stand for questions.
Any questions? First of all, thank you. That was a very revealing report. Appreciate that.
Thank you. And I sincerely apologize for the mix-up at the beginning.
I'll get over it, believe me.
I'm so sorry. So sorry.
That's just
PTSD.
Fine. Any questions? Any questions come? Yes.
Yes, thank you, Holly. That was a wonderful presentation. And the video was really moving as well. Thank you. I feel like I'm pretty solid on what it means to be first-year experience. So could you refresh my memory on who actually qualifies for that program? And then also, are dual credit students permitted to participate in that, even if they've only going to be here for one semester?
It's a really good question. Our target population is first-time, full-time students with less than 15 credits. However, and so what that hasn't included so far is mostly CTE programs because their programs are so lockstep, they don't have any room for any extra credits. Plus they're already cohorted. And so a lot of those best practices are already woven in. However, it's part of the scaling plan to look at how we can infuse some of these ideas, and that's why this book, you'll find it in a lot of offices on campus, and so knowing that not all faculty can participate in students. In terms of dual credit, we work closely with the dual credit advisors, and if they have a student who is mostly on campus, or a student maybe that has more than 15 credits but could really benefit from FYE, we get them in, no problem. And so it just kind of depends, and we're taking them case by case. In addition, scaling plans are how can we roll this out for most or all dual credit students. We haven't quite figured that out, but it's absolutely in the plan. Because of the numbers, because we're doing so well, why wouldn't we find ways to infuse this for all students? New student orientation will help with some of those pieces, but it's not that true first year, full year experience.
Cool. Thank you.
Can I also say a couple of things? Is that you saw the numbers up there on the retention numbers, and I think we're all very proud of the progress that we're making, but also disappointed with where we are. Personally, I'd like to be at 90% retention, but you also have to understand that it's different for a four-year institution. The only reason why you go to a four-year institution is to get a four-year degree, right? You don't go to upskill, you don't go to take a couple of classes and then go back in the workforce. You go there to get your four-year degree. Students that come to a two-year institution come here to, some will try to get, work towards an associate's degree and then go in the workforce. Some will do an associate's degree and then go on to another four-year institution. Some will just take some classes and then they get what they need, and then they go back to work and they get a promotion, whatever the case may be. So people come to a two-year for many different things. So the retention rate is not always as clean a number as it would be if you were at a four-year institution. So so one of the things that we're trying to do is, in addition to figuring out and getting closer to 90%, we want to figure out what the student's objective is. So if their objective is to take a few classes and then go back in the workforce, well, we don't need to have them, even if they're taking those few classes full-time, we don't want to put them in an FYE program, because their objective is not to stay here, not to be retained in the next year. They're going to take, if somebody wants to transfer to engineering at U of I, they're going to take 5 or 6 math courses and then transfer. Okay, but that doesn't really make them a viable option for FYE and retention. But we're also not able to track that super well. And so the numbers look, I think, kind of bad, but it's not nearly as negative as it might appear. But we're not able to track those numbers nearly to the degree that I would like to track them, so that we know. Right now, we can make educated guesses, but we don't know. And so we're working on that as well. And I'm trying to convince the state that that's something they should take on, because it would really be helpful if, we can't necessarily automatically track students that transfer after 5 classes at NIC. If they get their associate's degree and transfer, we can do that. If they apply for a transcript to be sent to U of I, we can track that, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they transfer. It just means they ask to have a transcript sent there. So all those kinds of things, trying to figure all that out, so we really have a system in place and can hold ourselves accountable to a much higher number. We need the state's help, and that's one of the things I'm advocating for. But it doesn't negate the great work that we're doing, and being up 8% over the average student, because they're participating in FYE, is a huge bump in productivity for retention. So doing great work. We're not there yet, but as Lloyd said, 5% a year for retention improvement is one of our goals. That's what he said.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I assume everyone's had a chance to review the minutes for the June 25th meeting. Can I get a motion?
Is this for the whole consent agenda?
No, I want to just go over the second one separately. Okay.
I move that we approve the minutes from the June 25th meeting.
Is there a second?
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Passes. Tab number 2 is approve changes to the regular board meeting dates on October from 10:22 to 10:15, and January from 1:28 to 1:21. motion?
I move that we change our meeting and reschedule the October 22nd, 2025 Board of Trustees regular meeting to October 15th and the January 28th, 2026 meeting to January 21st.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Should we explain why we're doing that?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Want me to
Yeah.
take a shot at that? So the October meeting conflicts with when we're going to the ACCT Leadership Conference. So we wanted to move that, and by moving it to the 15th, makes it the day before the NWCCU team shows up. So a lot going on that week. And then in January, we are anticipating going out to the NWCCU in Seattle to testify, I guess. And so we want to move that meeting to the 21st so we don't conflict with the NWCCU meeting.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Motion passes. Tab 3 is approve the president's annual evaluation, which is what the board did this afternoon. And that is a confidential document, so we will just, if there's a motion, we'll just approve it.
I make a motion that we approve the president's annual evaluation.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
We had a lot of discussion today.
Oh, boy.
I think it was good discussion.
It was.
It was very complete.
Very good. It's very productive. Okay. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Board passes. Now, this next item is approve the president's annual goals, and what we're going to actually do is make this a first reading of those goals. And then those goals will be posted on the website, and at our September meeting, we will formally approve those goals. Okay? And with that, I think we can go
Can I say something?
Sure.
Based upon our discussion this afternoon, we decided to put forth a recommendation to Dr. Swain, President Swain, based upon the performance review, some of the results that came out of that we'd like to add to section 4 of your goals as an area of emphasis for next year to the continuation of exposing the Board of Trustees to all the wonderful programs the college offers.
Thank you. And tab number 5, approve the board's annual goals. And I think we're still in discussion on those, aren't we?
Well, I think we were going to go ahead and have the training, or not the training, the evaluation. I'm sorry, I'm using the wrong word. We're going to have the evaluation of the board and do a more complete evaluation.
Right.
As a baseline, and then once we have that, then produce some goals that are related to that, and then also ones that we feel are appropriate.
Okay.
To be brought back for the November meeting.
Yes. Thank you for that clarification. And with that, are there any trustee remarks for the good of the order? Seeing none, I'll call the meeting adjourned.
Nicely done.